Welcome to Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a weekly podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host Dennis Simpson as we discuss the history, facts, people, places, events, lots more surrounding Hot Springs Village, Arkansas. Visit the website at hotspringsvillageinside.out.com. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com.
And another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out with myself, Dennis Simpson, Mr. Randy Cantrell, and one of our favorite guests, Mr. Ricky Middleton. How are you today, Ricky?
Doing fine, Dennis. Randy, how are you doing?
You're doing great, and you sound good today, too. It's that headset.
All right. You did a good job, Dennis.
We have distributed these headsets to important people, and then we tell them that they're indebted to us because we have to let them back on the show. You'll have to come back to pay off your debt, you know.
Okay.
Leash. It's a leash.
The electronic leash.
Yeah, the leash policy.
Exactly. Well, listen, you know, of all the programs we've talked about, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when we had you on before, the Citizens Academy, the Citizens Police Academy, it intrigues me. And tell me more about this, Ricky. What are we doing?
Well, it started in 2014, fall of 2014. We came up with a program to try to encourage residents to learn more about the public safety in the village. So we put together a little class. Currently, the class is 8 weeks long, one night a week. Going to start March 31st, coming up pretty quick.
What night of the week?
That's a Thursday night, and we start at 6 o'clock and runs to about 8 o'clock. Sometimes it goes a little longer, depending on how the folks engage and what we're talking about. But we do that for 8 weeks. And
what was the starting date again? March what?
March 31st. It's Thursday night.
And if I can, I know we keep interrupting, but it's at the Police Training Center, which most people don't know we have a police training center.
Right. 301 Balearic Road.
Actually, it's right beside the big Catholic church. It's catty-corner.
Beside the Catholic church, going into the Coronado Center.
It's an old convenience store that we've converted. And I was in there for a meeting this last week, and it's really nice. I was impressed.
It has a big sign out front that says police, doesn't it?
Big blue sign. It does.
Police training center.
Yeah. Nobody reads anymore, Randy. Nobody reads.
Well, even I've seen it.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's an 8-week course starting on Thursday night, March 31st. And
the first night I introduce myself, and then we start off by talking about the police department. You know, and I love to engage the people. So I ask them questions. How many officers do we have in the village? You know, and very few people know. We have 21 certified positions. And then we talk about administratively what we do. You know, the police department, we're not a municipality. So most people who move here move from a municipal type background. So this is a little different. You know, and I keep saying we're unique, but we're very unique. So we talk about how municipalities function, about how the village draws its authority. You know, we're deputized by the Garland and Saline County Sheriff to be officers in a planned community. So I try to let the folks know how we function as a police department. Okay. And it's very foreign. I mean, we enforce the Title 27, which is the rules of the road, the Arkansas Highway rules of the road on our private streets. Not heard of. Okay.
Well, and let's be frank about this. We choose to enforce those rules.
Yes.
If we chose not to, we could have 90-mile-an-hour limits out here.
Exactly.
Or none.
Exactly.
Because this is the world's, as I use the term, this is the world's largest backyard.
Well, in 1983, there was some law passed that allowed the sheriffs to commission officers in planned community. Mm-hmm. And also, if the board wanted to adopt the rules of the road at that time, we could enforce them. And they did. Mm-hmm. So that's how we draw our authority to enforce the rules on these private roads.
And most people why would we have to even discuss this? Because we're not a city.
That's
we're
right.
Not a municipality.
We're not a municipality. We're not a police department by statute, you know, so things are a little bit different. So we talk about that, and people engage and want to know, how do we function? Okay. Our police department is paid by the Property Owners Association by the dues that you pay. We do not get any outside funding. We don't qualify for state or federal grants. You know, everything, when they say you work for us, we do. because every dime is paid for by the property owners, and folks that have a hard time understanding, every other police department in the world gets this outside funding, but we don't. So there again, we're kind of limited on some of the toys that we have. I mean, we have good equipment, and for us, it works great.
But let's come back here in just a second. I'm going to circle back around about how we got this good equipment, but to be explicitly clear, and I don't want to give the course. We're just going to go over the highlights of it here. But to be explicitly clear, when someone who's in the village says we pay our tax dollars pay for you, they're wrong.
They're wrong. It's the assessment dollars that pay for us. Okay. There's no tax dollars that come back to the village.
Yeah. And that's hard for a lot of people to understand, but because we're a private community, why would any taxable authority, why would they give a private corporation money?
Correct. They can't.
That's understandable. But the other thing is, you mentioned earlier when we've been to lunch several times, and one of the things you said one time was that the outside world has laws, we have policies.
We have a mixture of both. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
And we get into that as well. What is the difference between law and what is the difference between policy? Because the two can't intermix, because, with law, we have to have probable cause to enforce law, where a policy is an administrative, you can enforce it by administrative fines through the company, through the POA. So
let's split a hair. I have a fire pit in the backyard, and that's a policy violation?
Maybe.
If I have an open fire pit, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I always love to complicate things, Dennis, because
they're
right.
complicated.
I mean, there's black and white and a lot of gray in between. So you're correct that that's a policy unless there is a burn ban in the county. Now we have a county ordinance that we can enforce. So there's many, many things that when we go out and take that call, we have to look at, okay, is it policy? Is it law? Is it ordinance? Just where does it lie? So yeah, there's a lot of gray in there, and we have to figure out where it's at.
I get confused, and I apologize. This makes even more questions, and that's why you and I always talk about these things. So the first week is we basically cover the format and the structure.
Right. And our officers, they're certified officers. We send them to the academy in East Camden, Arkansas for 13 weeks. If they're not certified, they will come out with a basic certification. And then we do a 12-week field training officer program. So for about 25 weeks, that officer's in training if he's not certified. Okay. So, I mean, that's a lot of training that goes on.
So to get a police officer in from zero ground, we have 6 months invested in them.
Pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
Now in Arkansas, and Randy, you appreciate this being from Texas. In Texas, you can go to school and get a peace officer's license. Then you get a job. In Arkansas, you must have a job, and they send you to school to get your education. So, I mean, it's totally different. A lot of folks don't know that. So, yeah.
And that's at a cost of what? Other than you're obviously paying them while they're being trained.
Right. We pay their salaries. We pay for their clothing, the BDUs, the things that they need to attend the academy. And then the state picks up the rest. Now, one of the things that I got passed last year through legislation with Representative McGrew, and he's great to help me out. If we put them through the academy and they decide they're going to leave within 18 months, then the agency that hires them must reimburse us a percentage of our training cost, because we're training ground. The guys come here, they get certified, and they move on to other agencies. So now at least I can recoup by law, because there was a law in place, but it didn't include planned communities.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Really?
Yes. Really? So what I did is ask Representative McGrew if we could add another paragraph to that of planned communities more than 5,000 residents. Okay, there's only 2 of us, which is Diamond Head and Hot Springs Village. So we were able to get that law passed. So now we have a little bit of teeth to hold these guys when we send them to school.
Well, let's cut to the chase. And because I know there's a lot of preconceptions, and I want to just address it immediately. We are not without crime. We said this in the last show. We do have roughly, I'm going to guess 1/8 of the crime of national places, but that's not to say we're without crime. But this is, as I understand it, a fantastic place to start as a policeman.
Sure,
I mean, you're it's the cat in the tree thing, if you know what I mean. But still, it's a great way to get 18 months under your belt for free and get paid for it, and then move to Benton or move to Hot Springs or wherever else,
Yes, and it is good experience here. We do a good job hiring folks, and we do a good job of training folks. So when they reach that stage, they're very desirable by other agencies. So I mean, and that's hard on us because we're losing these guys because they're moving on. But there again, if they're bettering themselves, I'm not going to hold a guy back if he's going to a better job where he can advance. I'll help him and support him or her any way I can.
Is our pay commensurate with others?
It is now. This last year, we got our pay up where we can compete with the county. We lose a lot of folks to the county, and the county loses to the city, and the city loses state police, and that's kind of the way it is. Game and fish.
Well, I want to come back to something that we're just cutting to the chase here. The governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, said that every police officer in the state is getting a $5,000 bonus, except for the guys in Hot Springs Village, I suspect, right?
I have not heard that, Dennis. I'd like to see that law, see what they're doing.
They got $45 million set aside for it. And then it dawned on me, that's for regular municipal police. And I bet you guys don't qualify. And
if it says municipal or county, then we will not.
Oh, amazing. Okay. Week 1, week 2, what do we go through next?
Okay.
Week 2, time out.
Okay.
Week 1, first night. What's the aha? What's the aha of the citizens that attend this, and how many questions do you field?
Well, the first thing I do is ask them where they're from, because we have people who attend from all over the country. Okay. And I encourage folks to engage because they want to know or they wouldn't be there. Okay. So this is a very relaxed setting. So anyone who's watching this and you want to participate, I like to have fun. I like to engage you just like I do with Dennis when we're out. He questions me, I question him, and that's how you learn things. So if you have a question, ask me. I may not know the answer, but I'll find it. And the next session, I'll come back and say, okay, here's what I've located, because Dennis was commenting on the books I put under my laptop. Our law books are very thick. Okay. And sometimes it's hard to remember all those statutes. So people want to know, well, where I came from, we did this. Okay. You're in Arkansas now, and the things are a little bit different here. They're very similar, but they're not totally the same.
But the whole POA thing, I would think that first Thursday, I mean, people have got to be just gobsmacked, I would think, mostly, and have way more questions that first night just because of what you're hitting them with.
Well, sure. And they do want to know, because of the POA and they're accustomed to ordinances. I get a lot of questions like the fire pit, and things like that. So we talk about policies and law, and then that usually goes into the second week too, because this is a lot of information to cover, in 2 hours. I mean, we're doing a show here and we're just going to hit the highlights,
right?
So when you delve down into it, I mean, there's a lot of information that people want to know because they're now living in a community that seems to be a little bit different than where they were.
Do you have to limit the enrollment of this?
I try to limit to 40 people. The training center, 40 is a good number. I've held it in the Coronado Center in the big room and had 50 plus. But that's I like to keep the smaller groups because it's a little more personal.
Yeah.
We've since 2014 we've put 414 people through the program.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. And I'm not going to be a spoiler yet, but I'll tell you, anybody who's listening or watching, stay tuned because there's even bigger stuff at the end, because typically these graduates give back to the community in an exceptional way. And we'll come to that in a minute. But so the first week we would say the gobsmack is the POA. The
POA,
second week, I'm sorry,
laws and Criminal law, traffic laws, there again, it's a continuation of the policies, because after the first night, people have more questions.
Yeah.
So the second night, they're coming in with all these questions that they won't answer now about policies, because they've had time to think about what I tell them. So we talk about policies, traffic law, and criminal law, because the two laws are different. Traffic's different than criminal. Civil is a whole nother area. So, and a lot of the POA things are civil because it doesn't meet the criminal statute. So we talk about that. And then we get into, where I come from, I have smoke colored little license plate cover, and that's legal in my state. But when I come to Arkansas, I get stopped and get a ticket. Yes, because it's illegal in Arkansas. And so there's things like that, where I come from, open carry, concealed carry. We talk a lot about that because people want to know, what can I do here to stay out of trouble with the law? So we get a lot of questions like that. And that takes, an hour just to talk about concealed carry and open carry,
But watch here, I'm going to split a hair. But Ricky, I'm on a journey.
Yes.
I'm on a journey.
Okay, so
we won't even go there. And Randy, what I mean to tell you, in the state of Arkansas,
what do you mean?
Well, in the state of Arkansas, if you're carrying open carry and you're going from one county to another, you can say I'm on a journey. Well, hell, I'm 3 miles from the county line. I'm on a journey from here to every time I cross the village. I'm on a way to a journey.
Okay.
Anyway, I'm trying to split hairs, and Ricky knows where I'm going.
And the law used to say you had to leave the county in which you live, which it doesn't say that anymore.
Oh, really? So I can just be on.
Okay. So I actually put these laws up on the TV screen so they can look at them. LexisNexis is a wonderful website that you can go to look up state laws, and you don't have to take my word for it. Here's the website. You can look up the statute, and read it for yourself,
Every attorney I know has a LexisNexis account. Every attorney.
Absolutely. And you're looking at black and white, but still there's a lot of gray. Okay. Because everybody interprets it different. They'll pick up on one word and say, that's what it means. No,
do you cover moonshining or anything?
That's not a big problem anymore, Randy.
It was, but it's not.
Right.
Last lunch we had, I brought this up, Randy. I
know he said he likes to have fun, so I'm just trying to have fun.
Moonshine, man.
Sure. I mean, and we did, years ago, there was a steal that was, busted out of the village, back when Charlie Davis and some of those officers were here, that's been many, many years ago. So we don't talk a whole lot about moonshine and that stuff, but, and people
we're not that far back in the woods,
right?
We're not that far back,
right? But people do want to know what they needed, what's different in Arkansas than where they come from, so that they do not violate the law. So we talk about those things.
Well, I want to move on to the next point.
What prompted this whole thing, and then I'm going to let Dennis pick it up.
No, that's fine.
What prompted this whole initiative to do this Citizens Police Academy?
Trying to engage the public. I call it building my army one supporter at a time, because sometimes I get people who come to the classes who they have their agenda, we'll be quite frank, and they want to challenge me, and I welcome the challenge, because I've been in this business 34 years. So let's get out there and let's talk about it and let's get it settled. And,
they don't have a question you haven't heard, Ricky.
Right. And, we may agree or we may agree to disagree, because there again, everybody interprets it just a little bit different. That's why we have lawyers and judges. They have the final say.
Was this founded off of a similar program somewhere else, or did you just think this up, or what?
No, this has been going. There's lots of departments all over the country that do it, and so we thought this would just be a good program to introduce here in the village and engage our residents, try to educate them. And, the better we can educate them, the smoother it should run, because if you know what the rules are, most people, they want to go by the rules if they know what the rules are. So if you can explain it to them and make it clear where they have no doubt, most folks, they want to abide by it.
And you're going to do this how many times a year?
I try to do it 2 times a year, usually the last of March. And then again, after school starts back in session, after everybody's through traveling. So hopefully COVID will leave us alone and we'll be able to hold the classes and have a good turnout.
So now the second class around that time, you've told me before, and we haven't gone through all this. I just know what the next step is. And this one to me, I thought was genius and fascinating. And you said that you invite the coroner in.
I do. He's about week 6, because I invite the fire department in, let them talk about the programs they provide for the village residents, and show and tell their fire equipment. That's always a popular night. I bring my patrol officers in and let them show the equipment they carry on their belt, let them go through, look at the patrol car to see what we do there, let them hear stories from the patrolmen, and engage with them. And then also do that with criminal investigations. We explain the fingerprinting process, and it's not like on TV where in 30 minutes we're going to have the results of all these tests. That's TV, and we try to explain to them the processes of getting a warrant, why we have to have warrants. We can't just stop you and detain you for no reason, so we try to educate folks on how we interact. And we talk about the stopping, we have 15 minutes to conduct our business. I mean, we're not hiding anything in law enforcement. Everybody should know what their rights are. And we try to tell you, here's what to expect if you encounter one of our officers, so that they will know, because a lot of folks have never been stopped. It's amazing the number of village residents that have not been stopped, in their lifetime. So they need to know what to expect when they encounter an officer.
I wish I could say that.
Well, Randy, maybe you ought to come be a guest speaker.
I haven't been stopped inside the village now, but I have been stopped before.
Yeah, 2 trips ago, Randy. Last trip.
So 2 trips ago. True story, Ricky. So I'm just lost in thought. Rhonda's over there. She's sewing on something, doing needlework or something. And I'm just following I don't know, speed limit's 75. I'm not paying attention at all. And I'm the last of maybe 5 cars. We're all 4 or 5 car lengths apart, just going highway speed. And, and of course the highway's just crazy. A lot of trucks. And I'm in the passing lane. And the next thing you know, I got a black SUV behind me with grill lights going off, and I'm like, are you kidding me? I have just passed a trooper. How in the world do you pass a trooper on the highway? But I'm like, well, these cars in front of me.
Exactly. Why am I being victimized here?
No, I wasn't thinking that. I was guilty as charged, but I was thinking, I passed him. They had to pass him. Super friendly guy. Just said, where are you headed? I said, Hot Springs Village. He said, it'll still be there. And I said, I appreciate it. Thank you, sir. So he let me off. But yeah, I'm not one of those that has never experienced being pulled over. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, and then
so week 2,
we get the ones we can there, Randy. We can't get them all. We get the ones we can.
Yeah. Well, I'm experienced. I could participate in the class for a brief period of time. Okay. So week 1. Just step us through the subject matter of each week, because I think that's where Dennis was headed. So week 2 is...
So week 2, that's the policies, the laws, and the traffic laws. Week 3 is patrol operations, bring in patrolmen and let them talk. Week 4 is usually the fire department and our criminal investigations. Week 5, we try to get dispatch in and let them talk about what they do in the dispatch, and go through our Smart 911 program and the programs that we offer, because dispatch handles a lot of those, and let them have the opportunity.
What does that call volume look like to you guys? I mean, can you give us some sense of?
We answer about 5,000 calls a year.
Okay.
Let me interject.
We respond to about 5,000.
Let me interject. The other day, I called Megan Thursday week. I was telling her about an extremely slick patch.
And Megan
was one of the dispatchers. Excellent. She repeated the information back to me, Ricky. She said it again exactly. I'm driving back home from Little Rock last night. I drive in front of the POA. I come around the corner. There's a bunch of little quick hills and whatever. Next thing you know, there's pardon the term, listener, there's a bloody mess in the middle of the road, and I straddle it. Well, it dawns on me that's a deer. And then I thought, if I had been literally a quarter second later, I wouldn't have missed that. Right. So I dialed, and I've given this number out incorrectly before, so I will correct myself. I dialed 501 922-0011. 922-0011, the non-emergency number. Megan immediately answered. She said, what's your issue? How can I help you? I said, on the westbound lane, about a quarter of a mile west of the POA, blah, 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 blah. She said, I'll have one of our patrol officers go by and take a look at it. And I know this sounds silly, and I know they're not doing this in a major city, but it doesn't surprise me, Ricky. I mean, your officers go out there and remove a dead carcass, I'm assuming, if
Absolutely.
It's after hours.
Because it's a traffic hazard.
Do they have chainsaws in the car to cut trees or whatever? Because these guys do it all.
Actually, we do have two chainsaws that are available. We give them training on how to be safe with them. So think, and that's what we talk about too. At 2:00 in the morning, why would we call out Public Works to cut up a tree that's 2 inches in diameter that we could take care of? I mean, now if it's beyond their expertise, I don't want them to do it. I don't want to do something that's unsafe, but we are the true community police department. And that's also unique to us because other departments don't have time to do these things that we do. But that's what makes this great place so great, is that we do have time to help these folks in what their needs are, and so it takes a special officer to work in this community, and when I interview, we go through all this. I try to tell them up front exactly what you're getting into. And if this is not what you're looking for, then this is not the place for you.
So dispatch, we're up to week what?
We're up to week 5. Dispatch, animal control, compliance, we try to get all those in that night. We explain how when you call for an ambulance and you hit the 911, they answer, what is your emergency? And then you're going to hear a click. And what that is, they're transferring them to LifeNet. It's a 1-button transfer. So a lot of people, when they hear that click, they think they're the phone's being hanged up, and that's not the case at all. So we don't want them to hang up on us. So we try to educate folks. When you hear that click, we're transferring. You stay on the line. The next person gets on the line. They get all the information they need to send an ambulance. So there's little things like that we promote in the community that folks need to know.
Well, let me boot to that real quick. We had the LifeNet guys at the Rotary, the satellite Rotary last week or week before last, and they were fantastic. I am impressed with these guys. It's deeply impressed. And they did make note that when you're given that information and they're saying, just send somebody, There are 2 dispatchers at LifeNet, and one of them has somebody on the way and the other one is getting all the details. So just breathe and give them all the details, and they are on the way.
That's right. That information is critical to them, for their response, and the guys are on their way. So, and I know it's a high stress, emotional issue, but help is coming. So,
So that's week 6, and then week 7.
Week 7, we talk coroner. Great program. I mean, and it's kind of a topic that's a little bit hard to talk about. But there again, people need to know what to do when they have a death in the family, what to expect, the paperwork to fill out, and things. And Stuart Smedley, he's usually my guest speaker. He does a fantastic job talking about what the coroner office does.
Now, is that Saline County?
Garland
County coroner.
Garland. Me and Stuart, we go back to day one. So, but he's really good at what he does, and he works with the officers when we have a death to explain to them what we're seeing. So, I mean, I love that relationship with the coroner that we have. Both counties, I've had both coroners come out and talk. So Kevin Cleghorn, Saline County, he's a good guy too. Works with the officers. And then the next week, I have a special guest speaker, and this one will really make folks emotional. Do you remember Chad King, who's the Mountain Pine chief who responded to a trespasser call near his home and ended up in a gun battle, and he survived? He is gracious enough to come out and talk to folks as to what he experienced. And a really, really good program because it drives it home just how dangerous police work is. And then I finally, after several meetings, got his wife to get up and talk about how it affects the spouses, because we forget about them, and they're a big part of police work too. I mean, without the spousal support, it's tough for us to do our job. So that's a great meeting there. And then the last night, we have a Milo simulator, and I give the folks an opportunity to be a police officer for a few minutes and let them make a call. We'll play a scenario, and they have to decide what type force they're going to use, whether it's deadly or non-deadly. Can they talk them down? And this system, I can manipulate it so I can change the end results.
It's never the same. So it's unpredictable. It's
unpredictable. If they're engaging well and talking, I may make it a use of force scenario. They talked them down. They did what they're supposed to do, but if they're not engaging, then we'll go with a deadly force scenario. And okay, I'm sorry, but you don't go home tonight. You didn't respond. You're the officer.
And I know we've said this before, Randy, Ricky, and I apologize. It's a plastic gun. It's a screen. It's a couple of cameras, and it's some speakers, and people are still just frozen. And I can imagine, because it's so realistic, you get a clue of what you would do in this scenario. Yes. It's easy to watch a police video on television and go, oh, they should have. Really?
Yeah. When you're there, and while I'm going through some of the scenarios, I can hear the people breathing hard. I can tell that their heart's racing, the adrenaline's dumping, because you do get caught up in the moment, because it's a really good system, and the scenarios, it's a big screen, and if you get into it, it's very realistic, and it is a really good tool that was purchased by the next topic. I also let my Citizens Police Academy alumni talk on the last night, because as a graduate of this class, now we're looking for folks who want to volunteer and participate. I believe it was the first or second class, one of the property owners, after, we don't get grants and so forth. What can we do to help? What can we do to help you?
The typical villager response.
Exactly.
Love. Seriously.
Sure. These are supporters. How can we help you? And one of the guys had a son who was an attorney, and he said, what if we could form a 501c3 and collect donations? Because as POA, we can't give you a tax write-off. So a lot of people don't want to, donate unless they can get something out of it. Sure. But so they did. They formed a 501c3, and its sole purpose is to support the operation of the police department. And that in itself, great group. They've provided us with a lot of equipment.
And roughly, I know they have a golf tournament that's a fundraiser, and I know they do a lot of other things. Roughly, how much have they generated?
The number was around 150,000 that they've raised just for the police department. They bought new shotguns, new rifles, body cameras. The list just goes on and on and on of things that we may not have had if it had not been for the private donations. Besides that, now they become my army of supporters, my volunteer workforce. Okay. There's about 140 something members, I believe now, pay a yearly due. And we do fun things. We do a trunk or treat at the police department on Halloween. They dress up, they open up the trunks of their cars, and it's really engaging, because we get 150, 200, kids that come through here on Halloween night.
There's 150 kids in the village?
Actually, there's about 800 or 900.
800 or 900, I know. I'm
right.
Just joking.
Right. But, and that's, people love it when they can bring their children to a safe place where they know that they're going to get treats that they can trust, us. So that's a good program. They also bought an electronic fingerprinting machine. And we have a thing that we come up with called a child identification. And I don't know if you can.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So what we do is we go to the daycares. We have events where people can bring their kids, their grandkids, and we will fingerprint them. And that's always the challenge, getting a 6-month-old or a year-old child to cooperate with you. But we put that on this card, and then we give them the card to take to their dentist, take a hair sample for DNA attached to it, put their medical information on there, and then they put this in a safe place. We don't keep any information. Our computer clears at midnight and wipes out everything that we do. We don't want the information. We want you to have it available. So if something happens to your child, that we have the information we need, to help find the child, or if a recovery is made, is it actually your child? Okay. So, great program. And my volunteers help me run that. They help with the fingerprinting. So we actually also created an adult identification for Alzheimer patients, for anybody who wants to be fingerprinted in case they need this sheet with all this information in case something happens to them.
Just a sideline here for me and Randy. What would you do for the hair sample? I'm kind of concerned that, I don't know that Randy, his beard.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Anywhere you can get a root, the DNA is on the root.
Okay. That's
ears,
right.
Ears, nose.
Yeah, out of the nose. That's always painful. But so that's
awesome, though. That's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Now, hang on, and I, if I'm not mistaken, because one of my buddies I think helped with this. What about the vial of life?
Yes, the Rotary Club provide us. Spence, with that. He provides us with vial of life canisters, and we hand those out. We have them at the training center. We have them here at the PD. That's a program where you put your medical information on a piece of paper and you put a sticker on your door so that when first responders come, they know to look in your refrigerator for that information. So that's a great program there too that we help facilitate.
So it would say what medications you're on. It would say
medications, any special thing that you may want the paramedics to know, any type of illnesses that you have, because a lot of times people are unresponsive when we get there. Yeah. So anything you can do to give those guys, the knowledge of, okay, this may be, and they have their protocols to go through, but it's just a way for you to help us help you.
Now, we're recording this on the 15th. As of the 17th, this is probably going to roll out unless there's a change we don't know of. That's the 17th of February. And as of this moment, Ricky, how many people do you have? How many seats do you have available?
Right now, I have not advertised it. I do have some applications that we have taken previously, and we'll start making phone calls. Okay. So right now, we have 40 positions open. So
now you say an application. I just can't walk in the door and say, "Hey, it's me."
You can, but we're going to give you a piece of paper and say, if you would fill this out for us, because there again, we do a little in-house background, to see if there's any issues. We ask you why you're there. Oh, what piques your interest in this class? Okay. Because that's good to know, why do folks want this class? And it seems to be a very popular class. So why do you want to come? Well,
let me tell you a sideline story here, Ricky, if you don't mind. I'm a licensed manager for security for the state of Arkansas. So I go to security, wholesale places and retail places. And so we're picking up parts and whatever. And the guy tells me a story one time. We're always looking for good electronic installers, camera installers, security alarm installers, people that are good, trusty, worthwhile people. And one of the guys behind the counter said that he used to run a security company, and he found a good guy in one of the stores one time. And he said, there's a young man in his 20s. He said, why don't you come down with me to the police station, to the Arkansas State Police? We'll get you fingerprinted. I'll set you up in as apprentice, and I can make you a great security guy with a great living. And the guy said, man, that's a great idea. And they went down to the police station. They went down to, number 1 Arkansas State Police Drive, walked in, and the guy renewed his form, and he filled out a new form for an apprentice, and the guy got fingerprinted. And Officer Johnson came back from around the corner, and he said, young man, would you come with me? And the guy said, what are you doing? He said, you have wants and warrants.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh, my Lord. So there's a little bit of a background check before we walk in the door, maybe a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah. A little bit.
But that there again, people who want to come, I mean, if you have a Thursday night free, spend 8 weeks with us, and I promise you won't regret it. I mean, you get a volume of information. And then if you want to help us out, these volunteers, they did a yard sale for us, a garage sale to raise money.
Golf tournament?
The golf tournament, which is coming up May the 20th. Last year had a hole-in-one. One of the players won a Subaru car.
Are you serious?
Yes. So, I mean, you can't get any better than that, Dennis. I mean,
is it going to be May 21st this year too?
It's going to be May 20th.
May 20th.
That's a Friday, end of police week.
Okay.
And we had 160 something golfers last year. Now, the cool thing about this is any police officer that wants to play, we get enough sponsors that they play free of charge.
Cool.
It's an outing for the officers, and they have a great time. And you get to buy strings and mulligans, and it's a friend raiser.
How do people apply?
You can go to explorethevillage.com, and there's an application there, or you can come by the police department, pick up your application, and just drop it off. And the first 40 folks that make it in, that's going to be the class. And then if you don't make it, we'll put you in the next group for the fall session.
Or we may have Officer Johnson come out and serve your wants and warrants on you.
Well, actually, we don't use ACIC for a warrants check, Dennis.
Okay, well, I was just checking. Yeah. Ricky, it's always fun. It's a blast, and I always appreciate it. But if I can probe for a second, we've talked about this just a moment ago. Randy, we were talking about the dispatchers and all these people. And how many years ago was it, Ricky, with Miss Dvorak?
With Donna Natsky.
I'm sorry, Natsky.
Yeah. It's been,
has it been
too long?
But not long enough.
One
of the dispatchers at the police station was abducted and murdered in the National Forest.
Yes.
And when you think that crime is out there, it's still way too close for comfort, right, Ricky?
That's right. Because that was a family member. That was a family member. It was more than a worker. It was a family member. Someone I spent time with every day, sitting and talking to. So I mean that really hits home when it's one of your own.
It's not just a statistic anymore.
It's not.
Was her murderer apprehended?
Yes, hopefully he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. We did that.
What's he had a funny last name? What was it?
It's Kevin Duck.
Duck. Yeah, Kevin Duck.
Was it just some random thing?
Well, I mean, there again.
Never mind.
It's tragic.
After a New Year's party or Christmas party kind of thing.
Right.
I withdraw the question.
No, I can't help but think that Mr. Duck was a little deranged here. I mean, she seemed like a completely nice lady, just as sweet as she could be. And anyway, it's just.
I've got a singer-songwriter, Ricky, that I follow, who hails from Oregon, but he's in Nashville. His name's Matt Carney, and he wrote a song years ago. And there's a line in the song, "We're all just one phone call from our knees." And those kind of stories just remind me of that. And it's just completely true. I've been blessed to do some city government work and helped a number of chiefs, and you sit and you just hear the stories of officers, and you realize an officer is just one traffic stop away.
Well, that's right.
From something that's disastrous, something that I can laugh about getting pulled over for doing 82, but and I'm a guy who's not going to be a threat to an officer, but that officer pulls up and he's got no clue who I am or what
that's
I'm
right. That's right. And we have to treat everybody the same, and Dennis made a comment earlier about being here in the village. Well, whether you get run over by a car and killed or shot by a bullet, dead is dead. Okay. And we had a young officer last 4th of July. We cautioned him. He was not a certified officer, but we had him posted and we said, you have to be very careful about the traffic because you may get run over. And he got bumped. Luckily, it wasn't very bad, but you just never know, when that moment's going to happen. Some of the closest calls I've had in my career was from automobiles, because, that big piece of metal coming at you, it's dangerous.
Yeah. I asked Ricky one of the very first times we ever went to lunch, I said, just because we didn't know each other. We were just trying to just get around and figure out each other. And I said, could I leave here? We were sitting at Village Hibachi. I said, could I leave here and drive to Jesseville and not break the law? And Ricky said, it'd be hard.
Yeah.
It'd be hard because there's so many. I mean, we look at the speed limit, but did you use your blinker? Or did you cross the center line? Were you operating in a safe entry? I mean, there's so many details. It's just, best to be informed. Would that be fair, Ricky?
That's correct. And, we need to be as educated as we can, especially like I say, when you come from another area to Arkansas. Yeah, all the laws are basically the same, but there's a little bit of difference in there. And we want to keep the folks educated and do our best. I mean, they can call me anytime. Well, Dennis, you call me all the time. I'm always available to answer their questions, and I'll return their calls and try to give them the information they need to keep them out of trouble.
Well, and Ricky, just behind the scenes, just a little, we've had this discussion when, you and I are talking about, and the academy is talking about personalizing the law services. That's not a guy over there in a black outfit that I don't know. That's Ricky. I know Ricky. We've gone to lunch. He's going to deal with me straight. I hear you talk about the trunk or treat. And I hear 150 to 200 kids have a favorable impression of the police.
Yes, exactly.
That's not how the world is everywhere, unfortunately.
No, Dennis, we're people, and wearing a suit, and we have a hard job. But at the end of the day, we're people, we're family people, we have a family to go to, and we're human. And we deal with things though that a lot of people can't imagine. We usually, when someone calls us, I told you this the other day, they don't call us, they have come have a piece of apple pie, because they have some event in their life that they need help with. And we're the people that when they call, we send someone out to see if we can help. I tell my guys all the time, we're problem solvers. Yeah. We try to solve any problem that comes by us, and the guys do a really good job. They really do. They are problem solvers, and I want to give them credit for that because they do an excellent job.
Well, as we wrap up, and I want to just arc it and finish it here as we can. Randy, did you have anything else? Okay, no more questions.
I appreciate you, Ricky, and your
sincerely. Yeah, I want to tell you a story about when I used to live in Little Rock, and I'll make it short and sweet. I used to live in Little Rock on Lee Street. I could hear the monkeys at the zoo when it was feeding time. And about midnight to 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. to 5 a.m., I would hear the helicopter at St. Vincent's. I would hear the lights and sirens up and down University. I would hear Baptist Hospital, not Baptist, UAMS. And then it's a city, so you hear sirens. And I remember being a country guy. I remember thinking, man, I don't care for these sirens. And I remember just waking up kind of grumpy some mornings, or waking up in the middle of the night kind of grumpy. And then I remembered every time they turn those lights and sirens on, it's for a reason, isn't it, Ricky?
That's right. Somebody's having a bad day.
Somebody's having a bad day, and on either side, somebody's in danger.
Exactly.
And I'm certainly by no standards the example or the exemplary example here, but I learned a little tool, and that is I prayed myself back to sleep, and I would say, dear Lord, whoever they're going to see, bless them, and whoever is coming to see them, bless them, because whoever's on either side of that stick has a rough night or a rough day.
Yes, absolutely. And, I tell everybody, when you encounter an officer and he seems a little bit unfriendly, you never know what he just left from. I mean, so keep that in mind. We're all humans, and things affect us, and we do the best we can with what we have to work with, and it's tough. It really is. So I appreciate all the things that my guys do. The EMTs, the fire department, the dispatchers. We're all in it together.
Well, we appreciate you, Ricky, sincerely. For Hot Springs Village Inside Out, I'm Dennis Simpson. He's Randy Cantrell, and that is Ricky Middleton. And we're coming back to see you soon, Ricky, because we're going to talk about Smart 911. I promise we'll come back to Smart 911 soon.
I'll keep the headsets on.
Keep your headset on. Okay. Bye-bye.
See.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Please subscribe to the podcast. You can do that by visiting our website, hsvinsideout.com, and tell a friend.